Hello and good afternoon, everyone. And I'll just wait a little bit here for people to join, but uh, good afternoon. This is our first virtual town hall or pop-up meeting. So with the situation that we have today, it makes sense to leverage technology. A lot of people are leveraging Zoom and Facebook as well to reach out to people in the city. And so we'll be doing that. I wanted to say hello to everybody and ensure that we have time together where I can share some information with constituents of Ward 13 as to some of the things that the city is undertaking, the initiatives that the city and the community is undertaking in these perilous new times that we have. So, good afternoon. A year ago today, on this very day, I was actually sworn in as your city councillor for Rideau-Rockcliffe after a very exciting by-election. Over the last year, I have represented our dynamic and caring community with pride. And despite many challenges, we've worked hard in conjunction with residents and my office staff to obtain many wins for our ward, including voting in favor of a successful motion to declare a climate emergency in the city, establishing a ward council that includes representatives from each community association that meets quarterly and that has actually met recently to look at volunteer efforts. We approved nearly $250,000 to build Lola Park in Overbrook. We secured $40,000 in crime prevention funding to support neighborhood safety in our communities. We successfully advocated for the introduction of a neighborhood policing pilot in our ward. Secured a $10.3 million investment in Wateridge Village for affordable housing. Proposed and secured the creation of an anti-racism secretariat for the city of Ottawa. Voted in favor of successful new regulations on short-term rental accommodations, including Airbnb. Assisted with installing commemorative street signs for Lyndon Lee's 100th anniversary. Secured setback zoning changes for the Rockcliffe Park Community District, scheduled for implementation this year. I was also very proud to secure and support and second a successful motion to declare a housing and homelessness emergency in the city of Ottawa with my colleague, Councillor Catherine McKinney. And I also voted in favor of a fare freeze until our light rail system achieved their reliability. And I also made an inquiry at Transit Commission last summer, which resulted in the creation of an online booking system for paratranspo customers earlier this year. So I believe that our efforts and achievements have been incredible over the past 12 months, especially in light of the massive challenges that confronted the city with the failed implementation of light rail, and now a very dangerous pandemic that is actually wreaking havoc across the globe. As we know, over the past 5 weeks, life has changed dramatically in Ottawa with the introduction of a deadly respiratory airborne illness that has no vaccine, no established course of medical treatment, and no cure. As a consequence, all levels of government are working together to keep residents safe and have introduced social distancing as a way to ensure the health and vitality of our communities. By working together, we know that we can slow the spread of COVID-19, and by making a conscious effort, keep physical distancing with one another to ensure that we really stop the spread. This includes avoiding non-essential gatherings, avoiding common greetings such as handshakes, unfortunately, avoiding crowded places, limiting contact with people at higher risk like older adults and those in poor health, and keeping a distance of at least 2 arms lengths or approximately 2 meters away from people. And most importantly, staying at home, with the exception for shopping for groceries, securing medication, or getting exercise. If you are concerned about your personal health, seek information from our great public health agency. You can do that through their website. So in turn, you can go to my website and then go to Ottawa Public Health's website, or directly from Ontario Telehealth. And you can call them at 1-866-797-0000. You can also undertake a COVID-19 symptom assessment online at the province website, which is available at ontario.ca. And mental health support is also available in these difficult times from the Distress Center of Ottawa at 613-238-3311. Over the past weeks, our mayor declared a state of emergency for the city due to the spread of COVID-19 in Ottawa. Declaring a state of emergency at the city level helped Ottawa deploy its emergency operations and staff in a more nimble fashion. It also enables a more flexible procurement process, which will help purchase equipment required for frontline workers and first responders as it becomes available in the coming weeks. Following the declaration, the city formally requested the province of Ontario to give the city flexibility to manage movement of staff, to redeploy resources, to support essential services, and to be adaptable as the situation continues to evolve rapidly. This aligns with the Premier's announcement of a provincial state of emergency, which shut down many non-essential services. During this public health crisis, City Council has met twice and continues to deliver essential programs and services to support residents. Everything from street sweeping to filling potholes to repairing broken water mains continues in the ward, along with garbage services. As you know, there is no change to curbside garbage and recycling collection. To help our waste operations complete their daily routes in a timely manner during COVID-19, we ask residents to limit what they are placing at the curb. Please hold on to bulky items like furniture, mattresses, couches over the next few months. Minimizing the set out at the curb of your large items and extra waste from spring cleaning will allow the collection operators to focus on regular household waste during this time. It's also equally important to stagger your leaf and yard waste material by not setting out more than 2 or 3 bags per week. By taking these measures, you help the waste collection operators do their jobs efficiently and maximize their physical distancing. Help our waste collectors stay safe so that they can continue providing this essential service to you. During the pandemic, used paper facial tissues should be placed in plastic bags and can go in the green bin as per regular waste disposal practices. Keeping Ottawa clean and litter-free is everyone's responsibility. We are seeing an increase in disposable gloves and masks discarded on the ground in public, especially around grocery store parking lots. Used gloves and masks are garbage and do not belong on the ground. Improper disposal of garbage is a safety risk, a major safety risk in this time of COVID-19, and is very harmful to the environment. So we encourage residents to dispose of all garbage, including gloves and masks, in waste bins. If you take your used gloves and masks home, throw them away in the garbage bin lined with a plastic bag, and be sure to wash your hands after. At our first council meeting during this crisis, the city introduced economic measures to assist residents, including deferred tax payments. With the implementation of the interim property tax payment, property owners were not charged interest until after April 15th for outstanding interim property tax payments. Property owners who qualify for the property tax hardship deferral will have until October 30th to pay their full property tax amount. Interest will be applied if the October 30th deadline is missed. The city is extending an interest-free 30-day payment grace period for all unpaid water bills issued before April 1st, and a 30-day due date extension for all water bills issued between April 1st and October 30th, providing residents with 47 days to pay their bill. Pre-authorized debit payments for water bills issued before April 1st will be withdrawn on the regular due date, and pre-authorized debit payments for water bills issued between April 1st and October 30th will be withdrawn on the extended due date. You can always pay your water bill online as usual through the My Service Ottawa payment portal online, by payment card, or through your financial institution. Before the formal declaration of a state of emergency, the city used its authority to shut down all recreation and cultural facilities, including recreational complexes, community centers, arenas, swimming pools, theaters, libraries, museums, and service centers. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, all city park facilities and park equipment are now closed until June 30th. Only walkthroughs are permitted while respecting physical distancing. Walking through a park to reach your destination or for exercise is permitted, provided that you do not linger or gather with others, play, or undertake any other activity. Unless you are ill or under self isolation under the Quarantine Act, you can still go outside and have a walk, which Ottawa Public Health recognizes is important for your mental and physical health. While the parks are closed, you are permitted to walk or run through them to get to your destination. Safe park practices that are permitted include running, walking, or riding your bike through the park while keeping a 2 meter distance from others, which is equal to the length of a hockey stick, or not lingering in any area of the park or any of the park using any of the park equipment. You can also walk your dog through the park where this is allowed, while respecting the established leashing requirements for the site. Stopping in a park to throw a ball, to let your dog play or linger in one area of the park, or to play with your dog is not permitted. Make an effort to step aside or pass others quickly and courteously on pathways. Passing someone on a pathway is not considered close contact or a significant risk to exposure to COVID-19. The amenities and spaces that are closed for use include public sports fields, including those located at recreation facilities, uh, ball diamonds, basketball and tennis courts. These types of spaces and amenities encourage groups to gather for usage, which basically goes against the physical distancing measures being used to flatten the curve, and that ultimately can spread the virus. The closure also applies to other play equipment and basically all park and play equipment, including play structures, swings, slides, climbers, adult fitness stations, benches and picnic tables, skateboard parks, off-leash dog enclosures, park and play equipment. Also, any equipment that really encourages multiple users. More importantly, the surfaces are not being cleaned and could potentially spread the virus. So the main message from the city is please stay off that type of equipment. In terms of parking, all overtime parking, signed or unsigned, will no longer be enforced on residential streets until further notice. All other parking restrictions remain in effect, such as no stopping, no parking, fire route, accessible parking, hydrants, sidewalks to maintain emergency access and traffic flow. Areas with pay and display machines continue to be enforced until further notice. Those who require the use of pay and display parking spaces may park for longer than the posted time limit, but are still required to pay using the app or at the machine. In terms of water and wastewater, we want to assure you that Ottawa's tap water is safe. It is some of the safest and cleanest drinking water in our country. Our water purification plants effectively handle all viruses, including COVID-19, by chlorine disinfection and other physical and chemical processes. We are continuously analyzing and monitoring the water disinfection process as per usual. We do want you to note, however, that at this time, in-home services, including water quality tests, have been suspended until further notice. Requests will be held until these services are offered, and requesters will be contacted at that time. Please remember, and this is very important, please remember, do not flush sanitizing wipes or any other wipes down your toilet. Be sure to follow the 3 Ps, paper, so toilet paper, pee, and poop only in the toilet. No wipes. Wipes can clog your toilets and lead to costly plumbing costs. It can also block and severely damage the city's wastewater system. In terms of transit, OC Transpo is committed to keeping its customers and staff safe. Uh, do not use public transit if you have a fever, new onset of cough or difficulty breathing, or if you've been in close contact with a confirmed or probable case of COVID-19. To protect yourself and others while you are in the station or riding buses and trains, cover your cough and sneeze with a tissue or your sleeve, not your hand. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. And where possible, consider physical social distancing, ideally 2 meters. Wash your hands thoroughly with soap and water or use hand sanitizer before you touch your eyes, nose, and mouth, and as soon as possible when you reach your destination. All OC Transpo customer service centers are closed. OC Transpo is adjusting service levels in respect to its reduced ridership. Service will be maintained to all neighborhoods and essential services, and service levels will still allow customers to remain physical distancing on trains and buses. Levels may be adjusted further as the COVID-19 situation continues to evolve. And customers can change their auto renew settings online at prestocart.ca. In terms of conventional bus service, service will continue to be provided in all neighborhoods. Weekday services will move to Saturday service levels on many routes. Many weekday routes will run at modified service levels. Rural weekly shopper services will continue as usual. The first morning trip will start later than usual on many routes, and Saturday and Sunday service will operate as usual. In terms of the O train, line 1, the Confederation line, service start and end times remain the same with one exception. On Friday, service will end at 1 a.m. Saturday morning, and overnight bus service will be available from that time. Trains will arrive every 6 to 8 minutes during peak periods and every 10 to 60 minutes at other times. In terms of the O train line 2, the Trillium line, service start and end times remain unchanged, but trains will arrive every 15 minutes at all times, and tape will be installed to block operator cabs from the rest of the train. In terms of paratranspo, all trip requests made in the day in advance are being accommodated. Most trips are being operated with one customer on board to allow social distancing, and service levels are being managed according to demand. The city's 4 long-term care homes are still in operation. Staff are following best practices to ensure everyone's safety, including screening of all visitors. Visitors are limited to family visiting residents at end of life or in palliative care. Seniors are vulnerable for serious and life-threatening complications from COVID-19. An extensive screening process has been instituted in all long-term care facilities, and I might add, is actually working well because at this point of time in all of our facilities, we do not have any outbreaks of COVID-19. Any visitors or staff who may feel ill have been in contact with anyone who has not felt well or who's recently traveled outside of Canada should not visit to protect loved ones and their fellow residents. Adult day programs and tours of the homes have also been canceled. As for my office, following the direction from health authorities, we'll be working remotely until at least the state of emergency has been lifted. My team is here to serve you, and they're doing a wonderful job, and I actually do want to commend them under these difficult circumstances and with a tremendous number of inquiries. They've been working very well in this in a remote way and in this very, very difficult time. But my team is here to serve you through our social media channels, phone line, and email. We'll continue to support resident inquiries, and we'll be exploring alternative ways of engaging with the community through virtual town halls like this one, which is the first one that we're holding. Thanks to technology, we will continue to respond to residents by phone at 613-580-2483 and by email at Rideau-Rockcliffe-Ward@ottawa.ca and online at www.rideau-rockcliffe.ca. You can also follow us on Twitter at www.twitter.com/RalstonKing or on Facebook. And if you're here, you're on the Facebook page, which is available at facebook.com/RalstonKing. Our office has been extremely busy responding to residents' concerns, and also working with city staff on crisis response. We have been very active in providing input to city staff, and I see that Guy Roy has asked a question about help for the poor in terms of ODSP, and is asking, what is the city doing? And the city is actually doing a lot of things. We have been active with city staff through its new Human Needs Task Force, which has been implemented as part of the city's emergency management plan and emergency response to COVID-19 to ensure that we are responding to the emerging needs of the community. The task force is currently focused on service coordination for immediate, medium, and long-term response associated with 5 emerging needs. Those are outreach to seniors, food security, transportation, volunteer coordination, and housing and homelessness needs. And we've made several recommendations on all fronts, especially considering the challenges our ward has on a regular basis, concerning both housing and food security and isolated seniors. We'll continue to work with staff and, importantly, with the massive number of volunteers in our neighborhoods, especially from those who are stepping up to provide food delivery services, as food bank demand has increased by 25% in our area. And obviously, many people know that we have been experiencing some of the most food bank usage in the province. So we are definitely working with city staff, providing them with recommendations around outreach for people in OCH, in Ottawa Community Housing, and in the Social Housing Agency, along with a lot of the efforts around food security. And so we're going to continue to work hand in hand with staff, providing them inputs on what we can do to make things better. We're also working to ensure that some of our most vulnerable residents obtain access to those supports. So I suggest to Guy, please ensure that you call our office. I know that I'm looking at some of your requests, and I do know that the Ontario government has boosted some payments in terms of monies that are provided to vulnerable communities. So we can definitely assist you with your efforts to obtain some more money. The other thing that I'm working on with my colleagues in the Urban Caucus is looking at housing for the indigent poor, for people who are homeless. So there has been recommendations by some of my colleagues that the city examine looking at hotels, purchasing hotels, and we are asking those questions of city staff, along with looking at other investments that can be made in the interim for the Rideau-Rockcliffe Community Resource Center, the resource center that provides a tremendous amount of social services for Ward 13 residents. We've also been working hard to provide recommendations to staff through the city's Economic Support and Recovery Task Force. So we provided recommendations concerning increasing the assessed value rate to allow for tax deferral. And that was reflected at City Council. So we felt, especially for some of the small business and homeowners, that $2.5 million assessment wasn't sufficient. So we lobbied with other colleagues to have that increased to $7.5 million. And we'll continue to make numerous recommendations to support small businesses. In fact, earlier this week, I participated in a virtual town hall held by local businesses, which included Ontario's Minister for Small Business. And my office will be scheduling a small business roundtable at the end of this month, which will also include our local business improvement area to examine what is required to ensure the viability of our smaller businesses, of our local businesses. This is very important because we know that there's a lot of challenges that businesses are seeing. They're incurring a lot of costs. We want to ensure that they're able to support their employees at this time, if there's the opportunity to do that, or if the employees have access not through the wage subsidy, if people who are laid off have access to EI supports, we want to ensure that they take advantage of those resources. And I also encourage you to buy local. Buying local is absolutely important. I think that after this crisis passes, the biggest challenge will be the hit to our economy, and especially that growth center for a lot of our economic development. Small businesses will need to ensure that they have all the supports that are necessary so that we can reboot and relaunch our economy and get at least the economic dollars flowing in our communities. I also want you to know that the elected officials in Ottawa-Vanier have been meeting on a regular basis and sharing resident concerns directly to our senior levels of government. I found that this has been one of the most exciting components of what has been happening. I mean, this is a very unfortunate situation, but I want you to know that the multiple levels of government are working well with one another. The elected officials in Ottawa-Vanier, that includes Lucille Collard, includes Mona Fortier, our MP, our MPP in Lucille Collard, Tim Turney, who is a neighboring councillor, as well as Matthew Fleury, who's also a neighboring councillor. We meet regularly via Zoom, via teleconference. And we do share your concerns. And this is one of the most exciting things is being able to relay your specific constituent concerns, which the senior levels of government are asking for directly to those members for action. And so that's one thing that we are doing. No suggestion goes unturned. We actually do advance that, and we have a large amount of dialogue about that, and we seek action on the things that we are hearing. So I invite you to write our office if you do have concerns, when you have concerns, and if we do identify gaps at the city, either in terms of funding or in terms of our authority, we do take it up with our senior levels of government. And it is important because our MP, Mona Fortier, sits in cabinet as an associate minister of finance. And she has told us point blank that she actually takes some of those questions and some of the concerns of our residents, and she takes them either directly to cabinet, so cabinet gets a reflection of what's going on in communities, and also to finance officials. So it's actually very important that you share that information with us, your concerns, so that we can move those and advance those forward. In conclusion, before I take some more of your questions, I want to thank all of the people who've been working hard in terms of the essential services that keep our city running, both in the private sector and the public sector. So I want to thank our doctors, our nurses, our medical support staff, our first responders, our paramedics, especially our fire department, who are still responding to those calls on a daily basis. But our grocery store workers, our food bank employees and volunteers there, cleaners, cooks, and truck drivers who make sure that the city continues and goes on every day, and especially city staff who have stepped up and who are really working hard to ensure that the city is able to provide those major essential services during this difficult time, so that the rest of us who are able and who have the capacity to stay at home, work at home, can do so to stop the spread of this virus. So I just want you to know that the city is working hard. We have higher levels of government that are working hard with our city staff to provide the necessary services and to ensure their continuity. And that my office is focused on ensuring that we enhance services to vulnerable people, especially people in social housing, and especially around food security. So we've been very active in ensuring and advocating for the continuity of different resources, such as community gardens. We will be advocating for the continuity of services such as farmers markets, which play a major role in our community, as we know, because of a lot of the challenges around food security here and the demand for food bank services. And may I actually make a request to everyone who can do that? Please really support both the Ottawa Food Bank if you can make a donation, and the Rideau-Rockcliffe Community Resource Center if you can make a donation, because they are doing hard work, they're doing difficult work, and their work is expanding. And as I also had noted, one of the other areas that we are also focused on is economic development, ensuring that when we get to the other side of this outbreak, that we actually do have the tools to ensure that we will see a strong economic recovery. So my office has been very busy during this time, working hard on your behalf. And but we thank you for that. And this being literally the first anniversary of my swearing in of my election, I'm very gratified to be serving the people of Rideau-Rockcliffe in this important and challenging time. I'm very honored to do it, and I'm also very excited by the amount of volunteer work that people are doing in our community. It's actually quite incredible that we have a tremendous number of people who contact our office, and they contact our office because they are concerned about vulnerable people, about seniors in isolation, and they want to help. And they also want to ensure that we are providing enough focus on those areas as well. So I'm really grateful that we have a very caring community that continues to step up and continues to serve. And it reminds us in our office that we're not alone. We have thousands and thousands of residents who are concerned about their neighbors and who are making contributions, meaningful contributions every day to this community. So thank you for your time. I wanted to give primarily an update as to what the city is doing and what at a certain level the ward is doing. And I will be online here for a few minutes to take your questions if you have any more questions. Yes, so I see MC in our community is asking about the community gardens and is wondering if there's a strategy to open them up at some point while respecting health authorities' advice. Well, I can tell you this, that I actually sent a letter in conjunction with Sean Menard's office last week to provincial officials, asking for the community gardens to be looked at as essential services. We actually had a discussion this morning with our MPP, Lucille Collard, and she is also on board with that approach. We understand that community gardens are essential for a lot of people in our community, and we want to ensure that people have access to them. And so we primarily outlined in that letter that we would also be focused on having the health advice of OPH, who is willing to provide that advice on safety. In our call this morning with elected officials, Councillor Fleury had actually noted that safety could probably be provided vis-a-vis appointment. So ensuring that only a certain number of people or somebody who is responsible for one plot has access to that plot singularly at one point, at one time. So we are pursuing that. And we also want to pursue the use of farmers markets because grocery stores are essential services as far as we're concerned as well. Farmers markets are essential. And if we can conduct the sale of food in a very safe manner, then we are for that, the restoration of that. So I just want you to know that we are advocating at the highest levels, including with the Human Needs Task Force, to really pursue that. And just to reiterate, I guess a response from staff, from my staff to Guy, there is a suspension of water disconnections. So if you do need emergency financial assistance, please call 311 and press 4. If you have issues around paying specific bills, or medical needs, or housing arrears, you can get that information through 311 pressing 4. If you have challenges around food, um, um, if you need access to food bank services or any other social services, the city is here for you. Dial 211, and the city will be able to, city staff will be able to respond to your inquiries and your requests. And I'd like to say thank you to Sophia. I saw her message about being sworn into office 1 year ago today. That's true. It's been a very interesting time, as you can imagine. We've had all sorts of challenges that I would not have imagined. A challenge with the implementation of light rail, and now a global pandemic. So you have to ask what can happen next. But what's interesting is how we've really responded to some of these challenges. I think we've been trying to be as responsive to all residents who contact us to the best of our ability. So that's only possible with the strong staff members that I have in my office, who are doing that hard work every day, in and out, day in, day out. So I really want to thank them for a lot of the work that's being undertaken in the office, along with having that strong legislative program of actually trying to seek change, and when we can be effective, being pragmatic enough to attempt to be effective. So I take pride in the fact that I'm serving, I think, in my estimation, the best community in the city, and a community that really cares and steps up for other areas. As example, we see strong support from the northern end of the ward, from New Ed and from Rockcliffe Park, for communities that are more vulnerable in the south end of the ward. And we see people stepping up, whether it's through volunteering, whether it's through donation efforts. But the concern there is palpable. And I think that the wonderful thing is that we get, if there are challenges, whether they're challenges in OCH buildings that Guy is talking about, we see people who have means step up and say, we want to help. And I think that that's very important. And I think that shared sense of community and a contribution to community is key and is wonderful. So I get excited, when I see that. So often people would say, well, people are coming in and they're being critical of services. I mean, that's the role in a democracy. We want to hear your concerns, and we want to actually really seek meaningful change. And so that I felt really a lot of gratitude when I saw people from community associations in the north end of the ward asking hard questions about how we are moving forward with addressing COVID-19 issues in OCH properties. And so, we were able to relay those concerns from residents, along with our own concerns as the elected official office, and see movement. And I think that's very important. So I'm really excited by the fact that we have a lot of people volunteering. We have restaurants like Coconut Lagoon who are providing meals to people. We have networks of volunteers who are who are working on information technology to really make the delivery of food bank services more efficient. Um, we have networks emerging through all the neighborhoods for deliveries of groceries to isolated seniors. We're getting amazing numbers of requests and seeing the amazing things that our community is interested in doing. I mean, we heard a wonderful potential initiative of community members raising money to purchase food items at local stores, at local bakeries, and in turn have those donated goods given to the food bank or to the resource center for distribution locally. So both supporting local businesses and then in turn supporting our food bank services in the ward. So there are a lot of exciting initiatives that are emerging, and it makes me so proud to really represent this community. So I have a question from James Casey. For people that are still working and have to rely on public transit, why are we still being charged to use the LRT? Well, the reality, of course, is that the city is going to be experiencing tremendous financial challenges. And so at our last city council meeting, we were actually briefed by the treasurer, and the treasurer had noted that we would typically get a larger amount of dollars in, and we now get a very small amount of money from the fare box. The city is doing better than other municipalities. In fact, other municipalities in the West Coast, in Western Canada, could actually face insolvency. The cities can go broke because they are getting half of the revenue. A tremendous amount of the services are actually provided out of the fare box. So a certain percentage of transit services is provided out of the fare box, and then there is a subsidy, direct subsidy from government. The difference with city government versus the senior levels of government, um, and this is a little bit of a civics lesson for some people, but the reality is that for operations we cannot borrow money. So for operations, we actually have to raise that money out of tax revenue. And what we've decided to do to help people, because people can't pay, is to defer those tax payments for the majority of residents. In fact, we moved a motion and at one of our council meetings, at our first council meeting after this occurred, to ensure that 91% of people could defer their tax payments because of the challenges around income. And so that really does remove a lot of revenue from the city. In fact, the city is losing $1 million a day, where it would typically see that revenue either from the fare box or from recreational programming activities. We expect to have a deficit of approximately $270 million by the end of the year if this continues on till the end of the year. And that's a tremendous amount of money out of our budget. We are a multi-billion dollar corporation. However, those operational spends for transit cannot be raised by debt. So we cannot go to the debt markets and have that as an instrument. We actually have to spend money as it comes in. Now, the good news at the city is that we have a number of reserve funds that are accessible to us for certain uses. There's a legislative authority on how some of those reserve funds are utilized, but the feeling from the treasurer is that we actually have enough so that we can continue operations. However, we will be undertaking cost-saving measures. But since we were receiving money in the order of tens of millions of dollars for transit, and now from the fare box, and now we're receiving, I think, in the order of something like $2 million a month, it creates a tremendous challenge. And so it is just not possible to say at this difficult financial time that we would make transit free. I would like to get there. I mean, I campaigned on fare freezes, and one of the key things that I had done during my term over the last year is voted twice for fare freezes, especially around the failure of light rail. The fact that we've had to submit a notice of default to or demand one from the consortia because of the poor quality of the product that they provided us in terms of light rail. So I hear where you're coming from, but unfortunately, because of the challenging financial times, it's just not possible to really not charge for transit services. And I see that Carol Ann has asked, are the food banks asking for money? Are there specific needs that we can drop off? Actually, the food banks are primarily just asking for money. It is easier for them, and it also creates, reduces some of the challenges around hygiene in this time. Obviously, you can imagine if you were to drop off food, it would be difficult for them to deal with. They would have to ultimately decontaminate the food and things like that. Even if they are canned goods. So primarily right now, the food banks are asking for money. And there are two outlets. My staff are on the live right now, and I know that they did leave a URL for to donate to the food bank. They're also looking for volunteers. So that's also very important. Volunteer Ottawa has set up a website, and they are doing the coordination, the citywide coordination for volunteer efforts at the food bank. So if you do want to get involved, check out Volunteer Ottawa. The Rideau-Rockcliffe Community Resource Center can probably also be contacted directly, and you could ask about volunteer efforts there. And if you're so inclined, if you want to give specifically locally, which I did last week, you can give money directly to the food bank. I think they're on CanadaHelps.org or CanadaHelps.ca. The kind of a portal for giving to donations to charities. Look up Rideau-Rockcliffe Community Resource Center, and they do have a drop down that would specifically direct your donation to emergency food bank services. So that would probably be the best way to really contribute to the food bank. And I'm just looking to see if there are any other questions. The wonderful thing about our office is that we're here for you. So even if you can't get around to asking a question in this live session, we always ask for you to call our office during office hours, weekdays 9 to 5, or send us email at Rideau-Rockcliffe Ward at ottawa.ca so that we can, especially if you have a request, so that we can action it, whether our office can actually achieve it or whether we have staff undertake it, city staff as a request. We can work with you, either by phone or by email. We monitor social media, but this is also another request. A lot of people will come with detailed requests on what they might want to do over Twitter or Facebook. That can be a bit challenging because because of the frenetic nature of Twitter, the fact that you see hundreds and thousands of tweets on a day just kind of scroll up and down. So sometimes a lot of that information can be missed. However, if you email our office directly or call us, we can immediately action and get it into the queue, your request. So it's not something that if I'm searching Twitter a couple weeks later, I discover, oh, somebody had asked about X or Y or filling a pothole. It is much more effective for you to reach out directly to our office so our staff have a sense of what the issue is and can immediately set it up for action. So that's just a small request for people. Please contact us and interchange with us on social media. But the primary modes of communication for us and for city staff, who we would forward a lot of requests to, is obviously email, and it's also traceable, trackable, and allows us to measure whether we're getting success or not. So I'll hang on for one more, 2 more minutes for questions. If there are any more questions, um, I'm happy to answer them. If not, I will log off. But of course, you can always contact our office. We're here for you in these difficult times. I want you to also know that there will be more virtual town hall events that I will be participating in. One of the requests that we did get was from our racialized and Indigenous communities to hold events. It's a question that I did ask at City Council to ensure that we have outreach to those communities as well. There's going to be a tremendous number of challenges, especially for small businesses and individuals as well. And those challenges can sometimes be amplified in the racialized and Indigenous communities. So I will be participating on a numerous number of calls with community members, which will be important in the Black community and in other racialized communities, especially around public health, because there's been, unfortunately, a lot of misinformation with in certain communities, and we want to ensure that we really extend the reach of Ottawa Public Health and their quality information to at-risk communities. So we'll be undertaking that. And on April 29th, I made a little promo video about that before I came on air here. We will be holding a small business roundtable. I had planned to do that before COVID-19 so that we could engage with our community members to see what they would like to see in terms of economic development in the ward and in the city. But now we have a special challenge because, as you know, we have businesses without any incoming revenue. We have businesses that have a very challenging, environment in terms of where are they going to get revenue to ensure that their continuity of services, the continuity of their business, to ensure that they can retain where their businesses are located. There are all these challenges, and I think it's going to be important to listen to small businesses to see what the city can do and what they want the city to advocate for in terms of changes to legislation and policy so that we can ensure the continuity of those businesses. So in the context of Black businesses, that's very important because, as we know, there's always a challenging business environment and even access to credit that's challenging for minority-owned businesses. So we're going to have a wider conversation about that in a town hall that will feature multiple people from the community, including the Business Improvements Association. So we are going to start to ramp up some of the virtual town hall opportunities that we have. Being a believer in public consultation and having a bit of a direct democracy, this excites me so that we can hear from you directly, get your questions, and really see if we can pose meaningful answers to some of your concerns. So thank you for joining me for nearly an hour here. Wanted to ensure that the community, the ward, had this update, and we are always here. Like my staff has posted on this video chat. We are always here for you at Rideau-Rockcliffe Ward at Ottawa.ca. And we can always be contacted by phone Monday to Friday, despite the fact that we're working remotely. We're available 9 to 5 on work days on Monday through Friday at 613-580-2483. So thank you so much for joining me, and have a wonderful day. And I will see you soon. And my best wishes to everybody. Stay safe, stay home, ensure that you're protecting the community, but ensure that you are engaging with the community. If you can volunteer, please do volunteer. And if you are able to give, especially since we have a lot of challenges around the food bank, please give. But once again, it's on this anniversary of being sworn in, literally a year ago. I am so honored and pleased to serve this community, and I look forward to doing that on a continuing basis to really help us through these difficult times. Thank you so much.